everyone, so we're cooking today. Can't tell you what exactly we're cooking, but we're cooking, and it's going to be an experiment. What I have here is, I thinned out my turnip greens out of my garden, kept the big ones, and these are the small ones so that they have room to grow. I don't know if you've seen my garden videos yet, but all of the plants that I was calling turnips, all the plants that I was calling beets are actually turnips. Taste tested today. They're turnips. Definitely taste like turnips. So anyway, I was thinning those out. This is the greens that I pulled out along with their roots. They're just the whole plants. They're new. They're babies. Here, let me see if I can get one out. See, there they are. That's a baby turnip plant. Okay, with the root system and all. It's no big deal. Not going to hurt anybody. So I'm going to cook these up today. I was going to do something on the side of like southern greens, but I don't have any bacon. I don't have any ham. I don't have a lot of stuff right at the moment, but I have turnip greens. I also seem to have a head of cabbage that I had bought. I was going to make some coleslaw with that, but that ended up not needing to be done, so now I have a head of cabbage and not going to make coleslaw with it. Also in the back part of our garden we have spring onions. The spring onions can be used at any time, so I have chopped up 3 of our spring onions, and I wanted to show you them. So just 1 minute, and I'll go get one that I haven't chopped. So this monster is what my spring onions look like when I pull them out of the ground. Start with the bulb end here. I cut off the roots, and then I will cut it here-ish, just past the bulb. And then I will peel off all of the brown just like I would a regular onion. I'd take the paper skin off. And then as I chop it up this way, there's a point in here when it becomes hollow. When I get to that point, I know that most of it after that is going to be very woody, because these have already gone all the way to their second and third bulbing at the top. So they've already done their prime eating time because they are spring onions. So we're past prime eating time when you just cut off the leaves and chop them up and eat them. So what I do is I cut up to this to here wherever it starts to go hollow, and then I will taste it every 2 inches or so to see when it starts to become woody. And taking the extra papers from the dead leaves off of it. At the point that it becomes woody, I stop using that part. And then I come down and I ignore all of these leaves that haven't done anything, because these are old. Okay, these parts are old. These are from the spring, and they're going to be woody as well. So then I come up to the top here on this new growth part, where we have the new bulbs starting, and I will come around about 6 or 8 inches down, and I will start tasting again, where it will become more onion flavor but a lot less woody. And so at that point I'll start putting this part back in, and I'll cut up these bulbs and I'll put them back in. Now I've noticed this year I have a lot of my bulb stalks. I don't know if you can see it on here, but like this one, you see this white trim through here? That's where it has split. I know that I'm not going to use any of this part because where it's split there, that's going to make it taste very woody. But I will probably use it from this break point here, where I ended up breaking it off as I was pulling it out of the garden today, up to at least these bulbs, and I'll cut up these bulbs and put them in as well. So this is three of these all prepared and cut up because I don't have any regular bulb onions at the moment. So I've also got a pound of ground turkey here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brown my ground turkey. I'm going to put in my turnip greens. I'm going to cut up probably a quarter of this head of cabbage, put that in. I'm going to put in my onions. Sorry. I've got some minced garlic here. I'm going to put in a bit of minced garlic. And then see where we go from there. And I'm sort of making some kind of green hash. I don't know. Anyway, it should be good, because I don't cook anything that's not good. And after I get going here, we'll check back with you. Alright? Okay, so I've cut up my quarter of a head of cabbage. It made just over 2 cups. This is my 2-cup measure cup. And as you can see, it's full. And that was a very small head of cabbage. It's not the average big one. I think it was probably only about this big total. So that's a pretty small cabbage. These are 4 of my spring onions cut up with all of the woody parts taken out. And this is my turnip greens. I keep wanting to call them beet greens. They're not beets. My beets are not up yet. These are turnips, turnip greens. Again, this is the part that I took out to thin out my garden space. We have minced garlic, and that's our ground turkey. Browning the ground turkey right now over medium heat. Maybe a little bit higher than medium heat. Okay, down to medium heat. Getting a little excited here. And the plan is to get this all brown. This is a frozen pack of ground turkey, so just like frozen hamburger, you put it in here and you scrape off your brownings. And you just kind of let it go. So I'm going to let that go, so get it all browned up. After I get it all browned up, I'll let you know where we're at. Alright, we're back. And I've got the meat is all browned. And as I was browning it, I left the lid on. I don't have any kind of chicken broth or anything to put into this. All I can put in is water. So I'm trying to keep as much of the flavors in the pan as I can at this point. And so since I used frozen turkey, it has a lot of juice in it. And I want to try to keep that into the pan. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to season this meat. I'm going to take some salt. Now this is the way I measure, guys, and I don't know how to tell you how to measure, but I measure in the palm of my hand. I say that looks like a good enough amount. But for your convenience, I'm going to take that amount, and I'm going to try to measure it for you. That right there is half a teaspoon. So it's half a teaspoon plus a bit. And into the pan it goes. And more than likely I'll add more later. I do the same thing with my pepper. I don't know how to tell you how much. So into my hand it goes. Just a little bit of pepper. That don't look right. Maybe a little bit more there. That looks better. Okay, around the pan it goes. That was maybe a quarter of a teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to mix that in. Alright. Now I don't usually use this minced garlic. I usually use dried garlic powder. Not garlic salt, garlic powder. In that case, I would also measure it in my hand and throw it in. In this case today with this, it says on here that 1 teaspoon equals 1 clove approximately, so I have a teaspoon measure here. I'm going to take 1 teaspoon, make it in there, And I'm going to take a second teaspoon, make it in there. So that's approximately 2 cloves of garlic, according to the jar. I'll get that going in there. And then normally, for the onion, I would normally use my onion powder or my onion flakes, depending on what the meal is. In this, I would use an onion flake. But in this case today, I have fresh onions, so I'm going to dump in my fresh onions. Now we're going to get those onions to melting, or sauteing, or being oniony. And I may need some oil in here, but for right now, I'm hoping there's enough moisture still in here that all I have to do is cover it, and those onions will cook down. Okay, so we're going to let those onions cook for a couple minutes, and then I'll see you back here. Okay, so this is my first stir things up after I covered it to let it cook for a little bit more. I am out of juice in here. There is no more water in here at all. And I am going to get some more water and stick just a tad of water in here. Because what I don't want to have happen is I don't want my onions to get more woody. None of this stuff has a lot of water in it. So I don't want it to get dry. Where's my, oh, that'll work. Need something to get water in. Alright. Now that was maybe half a cup of water. Put it in there. Stir this up a bit more. Get those onions to be breaking down. Now I'm going to cover it and let it go for a little bit more. Okay, so this is my second stirring, and my water's just about gone again. Not a problem. I'm going to quick give this meat a little bit of a taste test here. See if I need to add more salt and pepper. Turkey's pretty salty itself, and that's good. Now my preference would normally be to use a sausage, either a turkey sausage or a regular breakfast sausage. I don't have any of that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my cabbage, add it in there. The onions are starting to cook down, they're starting to get soft. Cabbage is going in. And these turnip greens, whoops, without melting my bucket. They're going in, roots and all, but thoroughly washed. They're going in there. I'm going to add a bit more salt. Let me see how much this is for you. No, it's not big enough. Alright, so that's about half a teaspoon again. I'm going to add it over the top of my turnip greens. Just a little sprinkle more. And I'm going to add a bit of water because I want this to kind of steam in here so that my greens will kind of steam down and get soft instead of burning. I don't want my greens to burn. So this is about a half a cup of water. That's probably about the same as I added the first time, was a half a cup of water, and all of that ended up out. Let me see down in here. Yeah, that just barely covers the bottom. I'm going to add another half a cup. Yep, another half a cup. So that's a full cup of water going in there so that my greens are going to steam a little bit. Now it's still over medium heat. And we're just going to let that go for another bit. We'll check on it in another 5 minutes or so, see how it's doing. So this is an experiment. I normally cook this way. I normally take stuff that I have and I put it together with some spices, and it comes out good. I don't know. Maybe I picked the right spices? Pick the right things that go together. I guess turnip greens, you know, turnips are something that I would normally pair with cabbage during Christmas and stuff. They have the same sort of taste as turnip greens have the same sort of, and turnips have the same sort of taste as cabbage. During Christmas or Thanksgiving, I will make a root vegetable bake, and it has turnip roots and parsnips and carrots in it, and I cut them up and put them in a baking pan and cover them with brown sugar and some spices, and I don't remember which spices I put in, but it's like cinnamon and stuff that you'd normally put in, say, a pumpkin pie. So cinnamon and cloves, ground cloves and stuff like that. So I figure turnip greens are pretty much the same thing. They taste similar. I did taste test when I took them out of the garden, see what they taste like. So I'm figuring this is going to be good, and I may, after this cooks down a little bit, I may decide to put in like some ground cloves or tarragon or something. We'll see. It all depends on what it tastes like after it cooks down. So we're experimenting on the stovetop today. This is why I prefer to cook on my stovetop rather than baking. Baking requires you to know all of your spices before you put them in the dish and before you put them in the oven. I don't like doing that. So here we are, stovetop experimental dish. I will check back with you in a little bit. We're going to put you on pause. Okay, we're back. It's been about 10 minutes, and as you can see, this is thoroughly wilted down. Not entirely sure. There's only, after all of this wilted down, there's only about that much greens. That's about all my greens that are in the pan. So that didn't make very much after it got all wilted down. And that's okay. It's okay. So I'm going to take a taste of these greens here. Maybe. Oh, I got one. I'll cool them off. Whoops. Alright, so let's see what we've got here. Oh, those taste good. Oh, that's yummy. They've taken on the turkey flavor. They don't taste like turnips at all. I don't know that I'm going to have to add anything. Let's see if I can get a bite of something that has a little bit of everything in it here. Alright, let's see. We got a cabbage, we got an onion, got some meat, and we got some greens. So let's take a bite of all that. I still got some, that 1 cup of water that I put in there is just about right. There's still plenty of water in there. yeah, that tastes good. That's perfect. Now I think what I'm going to do to make this a full meal here, I don't have potatoes. And I know if I add noodles, noodles are going to take all of that flavor out. And it's just going to become very starchy and just taste like noodles. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add I believe it's twice as much water as you're going to add rice. I'm going to add a cup of rice, I think. A cup of rice will expand to 2 cups of rice after it's cooked. So I'm going to add a cup of rice, and I'm going to add 2 cups of water. And then I'm going to let that cook for about 15 minutes so that the rice gets cooked. And I think that's going to make a great meal. So let me go and do that, and I'll get back to you about it. Okay, so I added my 1 cup of, I use basmati rice. Let's see what it says. B-A-S-M-A-T-I. B-A-S-M-A-T-I. Basmati rice. Anyway, it's a rice that cooks, and when it's finally cooked, it has the consistency of a noodle, I think. I mean, it gets really long, and it's a white rice, and it's not as starchy as regular white rice, and I like it a lot. I use it when I cook Indian dishes, and it cooks really fast. Normally, like a white rice will take 20 minutes. This stuff only takes 15. So I'm going to cover this up. It's still on medium heat, and I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, and I'm just going to let it go. Just like when you're cooking any other rice and you're cooking it by itself, you just let it go. You don't touch it, you don't move it, you just get it going and you let it go. So that's where we're at, and we'll see you in a bit. Okay, we're back. It's been 15 minutes. Ow, that's hot. Steam is hot. Okay? If you don't know that, steam is hot. Don't burn yourself. Alright, so you can see our rice is thoroughly cooked. It's still moist, so it's not dried out. We're going to give this a stir in here. And that's a 1-pan skillet meal that'll feed 4 people, it looks like. Definitely going to have to, separate those greens and divide them amongst the people because they all want to jumble up in the middle here. And we'll see. Let's see, how does this taste for an experimental food today? I've got my green, got my meat, got my rice. See if I can get a bit of that cabbage on here. I'm going to turn the... So we're at 15 minutes. I've opened it up and stirred it around. I've got my bit here to experiment with that has cooled off while I was trying to fix my camera. And here we go. Oh, that's yummy. That's really good. Now, if it was just me eating this, I'd probably add a little more salt. But Nate is not a fan of salt. And could also, if you know how to make a cream sauce or something, some kind of cream gravy, it'd be good with that too. I don't do those things unless it comes from a packet, and right now I don't have any gravy packets to put in here. But yeah, for an experiment, for trying to use turnip, I don't know, what do you call them? Turnip sprouts out of my garden that I needed to pull out anyway, and a quarter of a head of cabbage. that needs to be used up. And some onions from my back garden. That's pretty good. I think if I was to make it again, I'd probably use a sausage instead of the ground turkey. Unfortunately, right now I don't have any kind of sausage, breakfast sausage, even cutting open some brats, using those as a sausage instead. I don't have any of that right now. All I had was the ground turkey. But it's still good. Still good. You should try it. So if you got any time and you want to experiment, and you happen to have to thin out your garden, here's a solution. Use your thinnings. Cook them. Eat them. They're good. They're good for you. And that's all I got.